Hello, I'm Ben Norrington. I'm the Fisheries Officer for Essex. I'm here to talk about the work we've done in the last couple of years with rod licence money. We'll talk about a few different topics, but mainly angling club work and projects, attending incidents, fisheries surveys and research, improvements to fisheries, enforcement topics, and other issues with permits and the future of fishing in Essex. Although it's a difficult 2020, every year we are dedicated to making a difference to angling and fisheries through a diverse range of work, including in fisheries improvements. These improvements can be habitat restoration, regulation, fish stocking, fish relocation, angling access, enforcement and fish health topics. Last year, every £1 of fishing licence money we secured, an additional £25 worth of additional funding was given. These funding streams can help a multitude of things, but habitat improvement, fish stocking and club work is paramount in Essex. Working with the public angling clubs has reaped great benefits, not only to direct funding for projects, but to do volunteer-based river management schemes, improving gravels, as seen here on the River Blackwater, or sizing up the next scrape or backwater for fry refuge. Fishing clubs have been really proactive to come to us with ideas and further projects. In Essex, Norfolk and Suffolk, £58,000 has been invested. These are ongoing projects which include fishing platforms, toilets, disabled access for lakes, water quality meters, aeration systems, and even contributing to a therapy fishery in Wicks near Harwich. These fisheries improvement funds are a good way to spend money because they're a half-funded project idea. The fishing club comes to us with an idea, we can part fund, they can do the work in kind, and we can achieve something really special at some of these still waters and rivers. The most successful in Essex has been the delivery of handheld oxygen meters for a number of clubs. This is not only makes resilience for that single club, but they can then be called upon by friends or other fishing clubs locally. This is a great benefit to form that community basis in Essex. Some of the improvement strategies are ongoing, and with COVID it's been very difficult to deliver everything. But inland waterways and the main public angling clubs that use the Chelmer have highlighted areas that need improvement on the river. We've started with installing platforms, but look to do new footpaths and further platform installation. I look forward to seeing more of these spring up throughout the next couple of years, and also giving timber to disabled angling clubs and seeing platforms installed off of previous year's funding is extremely rewarding because it gives more anglers a chance to fish. With the local lockdowns and people seeking outdoor activities more, fishing has been on the rise. Fishing licences have outsold the previous year, and that gives more opportunity for clubs to develop their still waters. The access to the Fisheries Partnership Fund can help with car parks, swims, stockings and aeration systems. We are happy to work with all clubs that come to us with an application, and we can go through and see if it will benefit fishing. Aeration systems have been really important. As Lowland Britain, we suffer from algal blooms and bad water quality. So that has been a real positive to get water quality monitors and aeration systems, like you see in the video, to these angling clubs. Fish populations in the rivers are still a strong bone of contention, but with the River Stour and the C&B Canal seeing booms in our last survey year 2 years ago, We are really impressed that these backwaters we created and helped dig have benefits to fish populations. This one seen in the video is on the Essex-Suffolk border, but has large roach and bream using it to spawn in since its construction. We are looking for more of these in Essex and Suffolk to develop further. Because rivers have changed over the years from deep, dredged out, very canal-like systems to very overgrown, almost blocked weedy systems now in areas, we have to manage them differently. Money is not there, and part funding, partnership approaches to river basin management is the way forward. If we can find small ditches or old watercourses that are brilliant for spawning, as seen in this video, we can approach them to look at the sustainability of future fish stocks in rivers. There have been many different types of river restoration project. These off-channel scrapes benefit fry in the winter, spawning fish, predators, and angling. Rod catches and catch returns on this section of river have been really positive since its construction. We have 4 more of these smaller scrapes further down the river. The Riveteur has also had voluntary work with the fishing club, Ilford District Angling, who have been superb. We've seen sea trout and eels returning back to the Riveteur, and there's countless more of these sections that we can put our focus in to get the gravels back to what they were for spawning. Angling access has been the main bone of contention really on the main rivers. A lot of the good sections of river are either controlled by farmland or have no parking facilities. We hope to work with people like the Inland Waterways or local landowners to find solutions for parking, improve site access, improve swims, and making it more user-friendly for fishermen. The fish are definitely out there in the rivers, but it's finding the locations and being able to fish them that has been the problem. Using the Fisheries Partnership project money, we hope to develop better access for fishing in the future. Our main focus for expenditure in 2020 and even 2019 has been the stillwater development or restoration. There has been over 7 clubs that have benefited from this scheme. Whether it's car parks or swim construction or desilting, all lakes have been improved and plan to be improved in the next few years. Some projects have been ongoing and aren't completed fully yet, but have the full commitment of the club to carry out continuous works after the money has been spent. The main thing we see in Essex and Suffolk in a good quality fishery is a good quality habitat. A lot of the clubs now are well on board with this and have realised this is the priority. Getting the habitat right in a lake or river is the key to fish health or a healthy population. Many of these restoration schemes and improvements take quite a few years to develop, but it doesn't take long for a fishery to go on the downward curve. Overstocked fisheries, very silty, warm lakes are perfect breeding grounds for bacteria and fish health problems. Last year and the year before, there was an extreme amount of incidents, and it seems to be on the rise. There are many types of incident in fisheries, and being in Essex, we experience the warmest, driest conditions. Our incident response includes fish rescue and relocation, deployment of heavy aeration equipment or solar aeration equipment, monitoring through sondes and oxygen meters, or simply giving advice. Fish, like other animals, might die through a multitude of different things throughout their life. Most fish die in the first year of life, even when conditions are ideal. Environmental or other factors can change conditions, and important habitats can disappear or change in very bad years. We are here to monitor these changes and be an incident response for fisheries that are suffering from mortalities. The number one mortality factor over the last 2 years has been crashes in oxygen. Because we've had such hot weather and extreme algal blooms, these have come down with crashes, affecting large, shallow, eutrophic conditioned lakes and rivers. In the River Stour alone last year, we saw up to 60,000 fish die in the lowland section. This happened in lakes as well. We had extreme algal blooms in Heybridge. This crashed one day after being 250% oxygen. A thunderstorm came over and reduced the surface water temperature with its rainfall. This suddenly crashed into a BOD crash, resulting in large fish dying. This happened at Wallasey, Heybridge and the River Stour, all in one weekend. After being faced with these summer conditioned fish kills, the colder months can bring bacterial infections or blood-borne viruses and diseases. It's extremely important to report all of these events to the Environment Agency. We might not be able to save all the fish, as seen in this chronic ammonia pollution coming from a runoff from a huge pile of manure, but we can identify what's killed them, and this might be extremely important if a chargeback is required. Large mortalities like this, which are pollution-based, are extremely upsetting, but it's paramount it's recorded early. We have tried to increase our resilience with this hydrogen peroxide store, better testing for ammonia, better water quality meters, and better visibility and coordination communication through the angling press. We can identify all different viruses, parasites and fish health issues, so it is important to phone us first. Not all pollutions can be big, and this one seen in that picture was a small runoff coming from a public house. They all need to be identified because long-term water quality issues will drive fish health. The improvement of many still waters through aeration has increased the likelihood they won't get severe mortalities, and it also impacts the algal growth in lakes. Some of our most successful wins has been drain downs and desilts of lake, where we've managed to relocate or rehome the coarse fish species to match venues across Essex and Suffolk. This is simply requiring a health check of the fish and the manpower to net the fish and relocate them. It's hard work but very rewarding because we can benefit 6 clubs with 1 lake. It's the future of working together, the cooperative nature of fishing clubs in Essex, where we can help donate stock like these pike to control huge blooms in rudd and roach populations, or relocate perch from an overstocked fishery to an understocked. It's all a benefit to the club. Surveys and research, as shown previous years on my presentations and videos, has been one of the key factors in determining where to fish or how good fishing is in the rivers. This is also good to highlight whether eels can migrate into rivers, sea trout populations or coastal fish populations, and what areas need protecting and what areas are good or bad. This science has been put on hold slightly due to COVID and us not being able to go out in teams, but we've still managed to achieve some great work, as seen with this eel data. We've even tagged 533 sea trout, 880 eels on the Norfolk coast. We've taken samples from the Essex-based rivers as well to try and copy these studies in Norfolk. We've monitored the track fish populations, the transitional species on the estuaries, to look at how populations might be going up or down in certain species. It's a really good educational tool to show how delicate our estuaries can be in Essex. The tidal estuaries bring up migrators as well. The migration of huge mullet here up to the Essex border for their summer feeding on algae and getting that freshwater spa treatment. These areas are highly important for fish and need protection, but first we must know where the fish are. That's why we survey. Our estuarine surveys on 2019 were looking for smelt populations, sea trout and eel mainly. But a gauge on the estuary from controlled trawling and fyke netting showed there's a dominance of these fawnback rays. Huge fish with pedants to eating crab. Sea fishing is very good around Essex, but the roach, pike, chub and possibly tench and barbel of the rivers are the highlight. The fish populations in the C&B Canal from the 12 surveys in 2019 were the best for 30 years. This is why we don't stock the rivers so much in Essex and Suffolk. These fish here in this picture of a small barbel grown by our fish farm at Calverton. It's extremely important we have this fish farm, as you'll see later in our tench and crucian stocking programme. This last video is of a chip or a tag with a barcode scanner over it to show how we do those telemetry fish movement studies. The brown trout and sea trout of the North Norfolk coast are in Essex as well. We hope to find, even by rod and line, anecdotal evidence of where these fish are. As touched on before, the last 2 years, improvements to fisheries have been through the health checks to relocate fish, nettings, predator stockings, habitat improvement and facility improvement for fishing. A new project this year has seen Lifted Lakes, a charity therapy fishery, helping change lives for military veterans. It was a pleasure to be involved, and the work done there is incredible, although it's very early days. These kind of fishing therapy venues could be the way forward for society in Essex. We have many urban still waters and many fishing clubs in large towns in Essex. And if we can use fishing to help the public and the mental well-being of the public, it's a great win. Using the health checks again, we'll be able to manage still water environments, relocate bream and roach populations to hungry match angling venues. Knowing the health of the fish is very important about getting permission for where the fish can be. Online floodplain fisheries need to be compliant with these regulations. It's a protection for the environment, other rivers and potential passing of pathogens. So it's very important that you come to us and get the right paperwork for your fishery. By having the right paperwork, we can then work with you. We can even help stock fish from Calverton. We've seen a real drive for tench and crucian carp in the last few years. And as tench are quite resilient to the hot lowland conditions of Essex, I'm more than happy to see them go into many still waters. We've stocked over 25,000 fish, whether being from the fish farm or from relocated health-checked fisheries where we have done the netting and the health check. It's extremely rewarding because these fish were ready at Christmas, so we felt like Santa bringing beautiful native fish species back to some of the still waters of Essex. The clubs of Essex and Suffolk benefited, but if more clubs are interested in crucian and tench populations in some of their still waters, even for future cropping, get in contact with us. We're more than happy to help. This is a way of paying back what you've spent on your rod licence in securing fish to the major public Essex fishing clubs. We can guarantee tench and crucian and other species year on, year out. It's extremely important that clubs work with us to highlight the future of their fishery and how they'd like to improve it, how they can get more members, and how we can catch more fish. It's not only stockings and stocking requests that we deal with. Here is some Argulus, a fish louse. These samples were taken by Essex Fly Fishing Club, who started with a Norfolk club looking at how they can remove Argulus throughout the fishing year. They've done extremely good work and off the back of it have removed coarse fish and donated them to a number of Essex fishing clubs. This is perfect partnership working. The Essex Fly Fishing Club wants to reduce the level of coarse fish and perch and reduce their parasite, and the recipient fisheries getting the perch will have something to control the fry in the future. We hope to do work ongoingly with this large reservoir fly fishing club to benefit as many clubs as we can. Helping the many is the main aim for these stock relocations. Identifying the large public angling clubs, the catchment area, how many members, how many potential members is key in where we direct our fish. The fish were grown at Calverton near Nottingham and extremely big for their little age. The clubs loved them. It's not only native fish we see. We are there to help organise nettings, audit stockings and try and rehome non-native species. This is a netting done in Essex by a contractor who phoned us to say there might be some catfish they could rehome. We have links with the Catfish Conservation Group and many catfish waters in Essex. We'd much rather see these be rehomed properly under a permit than knocked on the head. This way of enforcing where things go is the right way. Pumpkin seeds, seen in that last picture, very damaging to a fishery, need to be in the right waters. Working with the fisheries managers and the fishing community, we can rehome safely large catfish and grass carp. All we need to do is know where they're going and have the right paperwork. We can help relocate them using our tanks, and then to everyone's knowledge, we are safe in knowing they're out of the floodplain and won't get into rivers or damage fish populations. Auditing nettings, seeing populations in lakes through surveys, restoring platforms, getting better access for fisheries, relocating perch to control fry in overstocked lakes, and seeing a demand for tench and crucian and native species back at venues is all really beneficial for fishing in Essex. Seeing stock numbers, auditing nettings, working with the fishery is all really beneficial for the fishery to be improved in the future and to be sustainable in an ever-changing climate. Having projects to develop water quality issues or access and therapy room development like the one at Wicks is really important to get a new generation into fishing. Relocating predators to help those overstocked fisheries, again, very important in the sustainability and the future of an angling club. Habitat improvements has been one of our priorities in this region. Looking at all the incidents we have revolving around water quality and habitat, it's paramount to get this right for the sustainability of your fishery. Even in our shallow rivers, we've started to redirect where mill ownership had closed mill gates before. We've had to work with the landowners to try and find solutions for very shallow rivers. Habitat changes and habitat management can be seen in many different forms. Low-cost solutions like baffling, sidebar enhancement through boulders can all help get shallow before overgrown rivers back up to spec. Through the Fisheries Improvement Fund, fishing bays like this, stocked fish from relocated fisheries, and large amounts of free large rudd, perch and crucians as seen in this video will all help improve these still waters. Improvements made over the last 4 or 5 years and fish numbers relocated and stocked have seen really good results. This is a video from a lake we helped redesign, and it now has a bubbling population of roach and tench all on the spawn. It's rewarding to see how a still water can be managed for the future using partnership funding. The partnership approach is not only with projects and still water and river management, it also comes to enforcement. Tom Baird has been busy on patrol, meeting and greeting a lot of the still water fisheries managers. We've also audited some of the big reservoirs and fish stockings, just to look at the quality of the fish. This is Hanningfield Reservoir. We also do rod licence checking and other audits on commercial nettings and other fish stockings. Tom's been working hard with the police and other agencies to crack down on any illegal fishing activities. Through the keeping and introducing regulations and SAFA, Tom goes out on patrols looking for illegal activity. Seizure of illegal traps or nets has seen an upsurge in many of the rivers. Tom's retrieved many of these traps, some containing live fish and some containing dead fish, including eels. With illegal fishing and illegal activity involving fish on the rise, it's important that Tom has been out on patrols and getting to meet a lot of the fishing managers. It is important that we know and regulate nettings, trappings and fish movements for the protection of other fisheries and the wider environment. We've seen illegal nettings and stockings taking place, which puts huge risk on other fisheries, and the improvisation of people's fish traps, which also are illegal. Non-native fish and illegal fish movements pose a huge risk to native fish populations. By identifying where these fish are and safely permitting and removing and relocating these fish, we can protect our rivers and other still water bodies. We have helped relocate many catfish from online still waters in a floodplain. Especially as they're breeding populations now, it's really important that the fishery work with us and we can help remove them. We've also seen pumpkin seeds at some locations. Fisheries nettings and some samples of these fish are really important to gather data on non-native parasites and the risks these fish pose to other populations. Although it's been a difficult year, some of these auditings and working with the fishing clubs to do nettings or relocations has been really important, not just for that single fishery, but to spread that message of a sustainable fishery. Also, the risks other fish can have on the environment. When we work together with the fishing clubs, it's a much easier task to battle these situations. Regulation and permitting is important to establish the future of your fishery, and to have compliance means we can help you attain a better fishery. Working with the fishery, like seen in this picture with the guys from the Essex Fly Fishing Club just about to deploy their Argillus traps, is really important because it could benefit more fisheries. And as in Essex the last few years, these guys have managed to help relocate some of the perch shown earlier in the film to fisheries that really needed them. We can help with that permitting process. Other situations that came to light in the last few years are the migration of fish and where fish get to, and the incidents are always changing. This is a big old smoothhound off Burnham and Crouch. They were doing some work in the Borodite behind and had drained the water, and on a spring tide it somehow managed to get in there. Lucky enough we could get in with nets and rescue them. This is another partnership seen in this picture. This is now a landowner that's seen our successful scrapes and done it for himself. We've had some really good successes over the last few years, whether it's partnership scrapes or incident response, saving fish populations, or relocating overstocked fisheries to fisheries that need them. It's all partnership working. We've had a very diverse range of work throughout the last 2 years, and it stems from not just partnership working, but day job permitting, enforcement, incident response, and working with angling clubs on a day-to-day basis. There are bigger problems ahead, as seen in these rivers where we have duckweed. Pennywort is also a problem, blocking our waterways. But working with other people, we've managed to tackle these on some of the main rivers. This little pike here will hopefully grow up to be a massive pike like we find in surveys on the canal and on the River Stour. There are sections of river that have huge populations of good coarse fish and great opportunities for people to get into fishing to catch them. I'd like to finish by saying a big thank you to all the clubs we've worked with. It's been really good over the last 10 years to get back to some of these public angling clubs and really deliver an outcome for them. We hope to work with more in the future. Thank you. Goodbye.